We are going to put an end to the notion that the American taxpayer exists to fund the federal government. The federal government exists to serve the American people. And freedom has never been so fragile, so close to slipping from our grasp as it is at this moment.
A troubled and afflicted mankind looks to us, pleading for us to keep our rendezvous with destiny. Well, I did not trade arms for hostages. My heart and my best intentions still tell me that's true, but the facts and the evidence tell me it is not.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Ronald Wilson Reagan, the 40th President of the United States, served from 1981 until 1989. Ronald Reagan was an enormously popular president who at the age of 69 was the oldest man ever elected to office and received more electoral votes than any other president in history. He was also one of the very few U.S. presidents who was as popular on the day he left office as he was on the day he was elected. Hi, I'm Matias Scheer at the Ronald Reagan Library and Museum in Simi Valley, California. Ronald Reagan was born on February 6, 1911 in Tampico, Illinois. His father, John Edward Reagan, was a shoe salesman. His mother, Nellie Wilson Reagan, was a homemaker who sometimes worked as a shop clerk. When Ronald and his older brother, John Neal, were children, they were known by their nicknames. John Neal was called Moon, and the future president was known as Dutch. Dutch and his family moved from town to town while their father searched for work, but finally settled in Dixon, Illinois, where Dutch attended school and excelled in sports. It was in Dixon where Ronald Reagan first became interested in politics when he was elected president of his school student council. He also got his first taste of acting there, when he appeared in school plays. During the summer months, he earned money by working as a lifeguard. After high school, Reagan attended Eureka College, where he paid his tuition with the money he had made as a lifeguard and by washing dishes at a fraternity house. He played football at Eureka, joined the track team, and served as a captain of the college swim team. After graduation, he decided to combine the two things he loved most, sports and performing in public, and took a job as a radio sports announcer at station WHO in Des Moines, Iowa. It was on a trip to Southern California to report on baseball spring training in 1937 that Reagan got his first break as a movie actor. He was asked to make a screen test for Warner Brothers Studios and was signed to an acting contract.
Air scoop at bottom of nose.
In his first film called Love Is on the Air, he was typecast as a radio announcer, and before long was given other movie roles, playing wholesome, likable young men.
I'm Drake McHugh. Maybe you've heard about me. You wonder if you haven't, the way people gab. And most of what they say is true. But the one
Between 1937 and 1964, Ronald Reagan appeared in more than 50 Hollywood movies.
What is the captain's pay, Jeff? $38? 40. 40 a month.
In 1940, he married a famous actress, Jane Wyman. But their marriage ended in divorce 8 years later.
Ronald Reagan, the Screen Actors Guild president, follows with a statement of action against communism.
By 1947, he had entered politics again when he was elected president of the Screen Actors Guild, a union that represents film performers. At first, Reagan belonged to the Liberal Democratic Party, but during the 1950s, his views became more conservative and he became a Republican.
Or I would
not like to see any political party outlawed on the basis of its political ideology, because we've spent 170 years in this country on the basis that democracy is strong enough to stand up and fight for itself against the inroads of any ideology, no matter how much we may disagree with it.
While president of SAG, he fell in love with another actress, Nancy Davis. They were married on March 4th, 1952. But in 1966, Reagan decided to give up his career in Hollywood to pursue politics full-time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we take pride in presenting a thoughtful address by Ronald Reagan.
Somewhere a perversion has taken place. Our natural unalienable rights are now considered to be a dispensation of government. And freedom has never been so fragile, so close to slipping from our grasp as it is at this moment.
What do you intend to do about the welfare situation when you are elected?
Well, thank you. Well, they would either be required to do that work or to take training, job training, to fit them for a job out in the private sector of the economy, but they couldn't sit idly and draw a check for doing nothing.
In his first campaign for public office, he defeated California's incumbent Democratic governor, Edmund G. Brown, in a landslide victory.
If you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
I do. I ask your help in returning the state of California to financial strength and confidence, and I'm certain that working together, we are equal to the challenge.
As governor of California from 1967 until 1975, Reagan gained a reputation as a fiscal conservative by limiting the growth of state government, passing welfare reforms that cut benefits, and initiating tax increases to cover budget shortfalls. Then, soon after retiring as governor, Reagan began to plan his campaign for the presidency.
I am here to announce my intention to seek the Republican nomination for President of the United States. What's really going to save America and make it great again is having a man in the White House who believes in the greatness of the American people and that you can make America great again. And that's what we're going to do. Thank you very much.
By the end of May 1980, he had won 20 of the 24 Republican primaries and easily received his party's nomination for president at the Republican National Convention in Detroit.
We are going to put an end to the notion that the American taxpayer exists to fund the federal government. The federal government exists to serve the American people.
He asked George Bush, a former congressman, director of the CIA, and U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, to run as his vice president. Together they faced not only the Democratic incumbents, President Jimmy Carter and Vice President Walter F. Mondale, but candidates from the Independent Party as well. Reagan and Bush soundly defeated both parties by a wide margin in 1980, carrying 44 states for a total of 489 electoral votes.
With God's help, we can and will resolve the problems which now confront us. And after all, why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans. God bless you and thank you.
Once Ronald Reagan became president, his first major challenge was to turn around a poor economy. Less than a month after taking office, he proposed a broad economic plan to combine tax cuts with wide reductions in welfare and unemployment benefits. He also proposed large increases in defense spending.
These policies will make our economy stronger, and the stronger economy will balance the budget, which we're committed to do by 1984.
The media questioned these policies, coining a new phrase to describe them, Reaganomics. When Reagan's Economic Recovery Tax Act of 1981 went into effect, it became the largest income tax cut in U.S. history. But it didn't work. To correct the problem, in 1982, Congress approved tax increases that totaled about $91 billion, the largest in U.S. history. Americans were beginning to wonder whether Reaganomics could really work.
Make my day.
Life in the Reagan White House was a whirlwind of official receptions and formal social functions. The President and Mrs. Reagan restored much of the pageantry to the White House that his predecessor, Jimmy Carter, had ended. When the Reagans were not entertaining, they often had meals on TV trays in their private quarters, or watched movies in the White House theater. During Reagan's first administration, he signed bills that helped banks and savings associations compete with money market funds, provided job training for unskilled, disadvantaged people, and raised the retirement age for Social Security recipients. In spite of Reagan's popularity, criticism of his domestic policies grew. His critics included blacks, women, and environmentalists who felt that his chief goal was to aid the rich while discriminating against them. A number of women's groups claimed that Reagan ignored appointing women to important government jobs, but in 1981, he became the first president to appoint a woman to the U.S. Supreme Court when he chose Sandra Day O'Connor to fill in a vacancy there. He was also the first president to have 3 women serving in cabinet-level posts at the same time. In March of 1981, while leaving a Washington, D.C. hotel, Reagan was shot in the chest in an assassination attempt by an insane man named John W. Hinckley, Jr. 3 other people, including his press secretary, were also shot.
The President is out of surgery and is in good condition.
Within months, Reagan made a full recovery.
What are you going to do when you get home? Sit down.
I have a letter with me. Letter came from Peter Sweeney. He's in the 2nd grade in the Riverside School in Rockville Center. And he said, I hope you get well quick, or you might have to make a speech in your pajamas.
Reagan was most praised for his skill in foreign affairs, where he did not hesitate to use the U.S. military to help maintain peace in the world. In August of 1982, he sent several U.S. Marine Corps units to Beirut, Lebanon, to help the Lebanese government fight terrorists in their country. In the early 1980s, Cuba and the Soviet Union were giving war materials to the government of Nicaragua and to rebels in El Salvador and Central America. Reagan, in turn, sent advisors and arms to rebels in Nicaragua and to the government of El Salvador. In October 1983, he ordered an invasion of the Caribbean island of Grenada, where the Cuban government was building a military base.
We see America's best days ahead. We see ourselves in a springtime of hope, ready to fire up our courage and determination to reach high and achieve all the best.
In 1984, Reagan and his Vice President, George Bush, were up for re-election. The Democrats nominated former Vice President Walter F. Mondale to run against Reagan and New York Congresswoman Geraldine Ferraro for Vice President.
I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
I, Ronald Reagan.
Reagan and Bush were re-elected in a landslide.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear. There is a great bond that draws the American and Soviet peoples together. It is the common dream of peace.
During his second administration, the president met with Soviet leader Gorbachev several times in an effort to ease tensions between the world's two superpowers.
The maxim is, doviai no proviai, trust but verify.
Назначение этого...
На каждой встрече вы это повторяете.
You repeat that at every meeting.
Later in his presidency, while speaking in front of the Berlin Wall, a worldwide symbol of the Cold War between America and the Soviet Union, Reagan challenged the Soviet leader to bring democracy to his country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
It was a powerful and inspiring speech that helped earn him the nickname the Great Communicator and marked the fall of communism in the Soviet Union. But in November of 1986, it was learned that the Reagan administration was illegally selling weapons to the country of Iran and using the profits it made to help rebels in Nicaragua, known as the Contras, overthrow the government there.
You still maintain you didn't make a mistake, Mr. President?
Hold it.
Did you make a mistake in sending arms to Tehran, sir?
No, and I'm not taking any more questions in just a second. We did not, repeat, did not trade weapons or anything else for hostages.
At first, Reagan said he knew nothing about the Iran-Contra affair, but congressional hearings revealed that the White House had deceived them, and Reagan was strongly criticized for allowing his aides to break the law.
A few months ago, I told the American people I did not trade arms for hostages. My heart and my best intentions still tell me that's true, but the facts and the evidence tell me it is not.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States.
By January of 1989, Reagan's 2 terms as president were up. His vice president, George Bush, had won the presidential election of 1988, and on January 20th was sworn in as America's 41st president. After leaving Washington, the Reagans retired to a new home their friends had bought them in Bel Air, California. In 1990, the former president published his autobiography, An American Life, and a year later hosted the opening of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California. Then, in 1994, in a touching letter to the American people, Reagan revealed that he was suffering from Alzheimer's disease.
Thank you. Thank all of you very much. Frankly, for a minute there, I was a bit concerned that after all these years away from Washington, you all wouldn't recognize me. Pretty soon I'm going to have to get one of those credit cards with my picture on the front.
For the next 10 years, he made few public appearances and rarely ventured outside his home. He finally died of the disease on June 5, 2004, and today is buried on the grounds of his presidential library. Ronald Reagan was a skillful campaigner and gifted speaker whose forceful language and acting skills earned him the title the Great Communicator. And in spite of record high taxes, unemployment, and budget shortfalls during his administration, he will certainly go down in history as one of the nation's most popular presidents.